Namaste. Today we are going to have a look at a very beautiful concept of Indian philosophy, of Indian culture, of Indian life itself. The concept of the Pancha Maha Bhuta, the five grand or great elements of our manifest universe. In the concepts of Indian philosophy, especially Sankhya, Yoga and the others, the concept of Purusha and Prakriti is very vital. And the Prakriti, that is the manifest universe, is directly related to all the five elements that are there. These elements can be understood as not only being external, but being internal and part of us also. These elements are normally known as Prithvi, Aap or Jala, Tejas or Agni, Vayu and Akash. So you normally find these terms used, and the common translation, the literal translation is as earth for Prithvi, water for Apas and Jala, fire for Tejas and Agni, air for Vayu and space for Akash. These are the common translations, and so people stop at that level. My aim today is to help you understand these five elements as something much more. Prithvi, that is earth, can be understood as the solid state. Anything that is solid externally, anything that is solid within us is the Prithvi. Similarly, anything that is liquid, fluid, externally and internally is the Jala or the Apas. Anything that is related to the thermal state, anything where there is heating, for example, the body metabolism, for example, the heat externally, all of that comes under Tejas and Agni, even to some extent the luminosity that we have. When someone has done a lot of yoga sadhana, we say they have Tejas, they have a luminosity, they have something that is light about them. There is a beautiful aura. That is all Tejas and Agni. Similarly, the Vayu is the gaseous state, not just air. And this leads to a lot of issues when people talk about the Vayu moving in the bodies. So we have the different Prana Vayus and Upaprana Vayus. And people try to translate it literally by saying there's air in your toes. Now there's no air in your toes, there may be air in your nose. And that is why we have to understand that gaseous state is what Vayu implies and not literally air. Similarly, when we talk about Akash, a common translation in India is the sky or that which is out there, space. People forget that we are human beings living on a planet Earth that is moving in space. So space is not out there, space is everywhere. And when we start to understand that, we start to understand that it is the ethereal state. It is the ether in which we exist, and that which exists in each and every part of us. It is easy to understand when you think about the Ethernet and how we are now connected through amazing wireless, Bluetooth methodologies. All of this connectivity is what Akash is all about. So the elements are not just out there, but they are in us also, which is why the great seers of the past, the master siddhas of South India have said, what is in the Anda, what is in the universe, is in the Pinda, is in us. The macrocosm and the microcosm is one. Andathil ullade pindam, pindathil ullade andam, andamum pindamum ஒன்றே அறிந்து தான் பார்க்கும் போது. When you realize it, you realize what's in the macrocosm is in the micro, and what is in the micro is in the macro, and they are one and the same. So do not get stuck with the five elements. Pancha Maha Bhutas are just out there: earth, water, fire, air and ether. They are us. We are made up of these. And yoga enables us to understand it further by correlating it with our sensory apparatus. For example, the five senses, the nose, the tongue, the eyes, the skin and the ears, which give us information. These are called Jnana Indriyas or Jnanendriyas. So these Jnana Indriyas, for example, the nose is called Grahana. Ghana is the nose. And what does the nose do? It smells. It smells, and that is called Gandha. So Ghana giving Gandha, that is nose and smell, are related to Prithvi, the solid state. Whereas the tongue, the Jitva, not Jiva as in the individual, Jitva with an H sound coming in there. Jitva is the tongue, and that tongue gives us the taste. What is taste? Rasana. We are able to understand the essence, the taste through the tongue, and that is related to the water element, which is fluidity, liquidity, and that is apas or jala. Similarly, our eyes, the chakshu, through which we see form, rupa. So chakshu and rupa, all of these are the tanmatras, smell, taste, sight, which are the subtle elements. And these subtle elements are experienced through the gross senses. So the nose experiences smell, tongue experiences taste, eyes experiences sight and form, and all of these are related to these Pancha Maha Bhutas. So our sensory experience itself is directly correlated with the Pancha Maha Bhutas. So continuing, the eyes help us see, and that is related to the fire element, Tejas or Agni. The skin, the cutaneous aspect of us, enables us to feel the sensation of touch, and that is very much related to Vayu. Now later on, when we see that the Vayu is related to the heart center, the Anahata chakra, you start to realize why the feeling of being touched and touching others. You can touch others through your gestures, through your thoughts, through your words. Well, all of that is related to the Vayu, and that is what enables that connectivity to occur, that movement to occur, that reaches out and helps us experience the feelings of one another. Similarly, the ears and the sense of hearing is related to Akasha space. Now, many years ago, when I started to first read about this and understand it, I was surprised because modern science tells us that sound requires a medium such as air, and we all in school have done experiments where in a vacuum you don't have sound. The bell sound is not heard in a vacuum. So I'm like, isn't this weird that Akasha space is where the hearing and the ears were put? But then, when you start to go a step further into the karma indriyas, the action senses or the sense of action, communication is what they are talking about, not just hearing. And you start to realize all forms of communication, especially in this modern day and age, are through the ether. And that ether is the Akash. So the communication that we have, and normally we talk about communication as vocalization and hearing it. And both of these are related to the Vishuddha chakra, which is very interesting that Vak, which is the communication, the expression, and the Shrotra, which enables you to hear Shabda, are all related to this Akash element. So we start to realize that our Jnana Indriyas, those senses that give us the experience and knowledge of the world around us, and the action senses, the karma indriyas, for example, the sense of locomotion is the Prithvi. You have to move. Where do you move? On earth. On solid terra firma is where you move. Dexterity, how do you use your hands and how do you move? That is called Pani. So Pada is locomotion. Dexterity is Pani, that enables you to have that sense of being able to do the fine movements, which water can do. You know, water will always find its level. Any nook and cranny, it will go into it. Your hands have that ability. Similarly, the process of digestion and evacuation is through the digestive system that is related to the fire, the Jata Agni, related to the Manipura chakra. Similarly, the sense of reproduction is related to the heart center and Vayu, and the sense of communication, as I said earlier, to Akash. So it is very amazing when you start to realize that which we perceive as external, the 5 great grand elements, the Pancha Maha Bhutas, are actually very much part of us and our every moment living. Because we as a human being, we as a living being, are constantly interacting with the world around us through our senses. And all of this is governed by the energies of the 5 great elements. And that is why in yoga, the understanding of the chakras, because those energy centers enable us to understand what is the powerhouse for all of this to manifest. Each of the chakras, Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, related to these, the 5 spinal centers related to the 5 elements and the 5 senses and the 5 senses of action. Similarly, the work with the mudras, because on our hand, we have the ability to again communicate with these 5 elements. You have the thumb. This thumb is often related to Purusha, that causal being, but is also related to the element Agni. Similarly, here you have water with the small finger. It's very interesting. You have fire on one end and water on the other. Now, each of these, so you have, for example, as we said here, the thumb is Agni, the index finger for Vayu, the middle finger for Akash, ring finger for Prithvi, and little finger for Apas. So when you want to communicate with these elements, when you want to experience the subtle nature of the Pancha Maha Bhuta, something very simple, you want to understand earth, you bring these 2 fingers together. Now this Prithvi Mudra is enabling you to have that experience of what is Prithvi all about. What is earth, solid state, the sense of smell, locomotion and Mooladhara all about. So when you sit in deep contemplation, I don't want to use the word meditation, but in deep contemplation and use the Prithvi Mudra, you can have that experience. You can have that experience by also focusing on the Prithvi Mandala, in the Mandala Dharana, that enables that experience to manifest. Similarly, if you want to understand the fluid element, the Apas Mudra, you want to understand what is happening with Akash, you have the Akash Mudra. And when you want to understand what is happening with Vayu, what you need to do is you need to bring it down. This is the one place where this will become Chin Mudra, that when you bring this down to the base consciously, what you are doing is experiencing what that Vayu, that gaseous state is all about. And when you want to understand Agni, similar to the Prithvi, you take it further. So this is the Prithvi Mudra, you take it further and you have the Agni Mudra. So through these gestures, because these terminals that are on our hands are very sensitive, the most sensitive part of us in fact, and those are represented in great detail in the sensory motor homunculus on the right and left side of our brain. So what you do with your right hand is impacting the left sensory motor homunculus. What you do with the left hand is impacting what happens on the right sensory homunculus. You are actually invoking through your mudras the stimulation, self-stimulation of certain brain areas that then can set up the opportunity for that experience to manifest. This is where, by using the soma, the body, you are creating a psychic experience. And this is where yoga is very, very somato-psychic in its mechanism. The mechanism is somato-psychic. You are doing something with the body. When I do this, I am creating a somatic experience that then will facilitate a psychic experience where the vyadi is influencing the adi rather than the adi influencing the vyadi. And this is a very beautiful aspect of the use of mudras. This was very much part of Indian culture. Of course, nowadays we have lost it. And this is one of the reasons why these concepts must be brought back. We can use our mudras. We can understand the vayus, the prana, apana, samana, udana, dhyana, all these pancha prana vayus enable us to experience this. The work with the mudras, the work with the chakras and the respective bija mantras facilitated. And the work with the mandala dharana, where you use the yellow square, the Prithvi mandala, you use that silvery grey crescent shape for the apas or jala mandala, you use that beautiful inverted red triangle for the tejas and agni, the blue six-pointed star like the Star of David, that is for the vayu, and you have this wonderful magenta oval for the akash. In yoga, of course, we realize that you have to go beyond these five senses, you have to go beyond these, and you have to develop the manas, that consciousness, which is where the Ajna chakra and then the developing into the higher six centers starts to manifest. I hope that this has given you an adequate overview of how those five grand elements, the Pancha Maha Bhutas, are not just externalized but are very much part of our internal awareness. As we grow as a human being, as we grow in awareness of these elements within us, we start to respect those elements around us. We start to experience a sense of gratitude for these elements. And at that point, we become the best environmentalist that we can be. Because the yogis have always respected, protected, and cultivated both the external nature and the internal. As Lord Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna, be thou a yogi Arjuna. May we all follow that, and may we truly manifest the spirit of yoga in us. Namaste.